Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back bringing you some Honkai Star Rail. I'm going to leave this playing in the background. I'm also going to sort of just dim it down in terms of the volume so you can also hear my thoughts on what we're going to be discussing, which is obviously in the thumbnail. So obviously the reason why I'm bringing up this topic in particular is because there's a lot of people who have commented in my recent video talking about, they give their opinion. Before I even start, disclaimer: my thoughts are my thoughts. Your thoughts are your thoughts. If you feel like you want to summon for a character, summon for the character. If you feel you don't want to summon for the character, save. But obviously, moving forward, these are my thoughts on a comment that I saw and a topic that I want to cover in just a few minutes, which is now JING LIU versus Acheron. So as we start off, these are my thoughts specifically on the two. I think that JING LIU came out and she was a busted character with no doubt, 100%. I mean, she deals a lot of damage as a free to play. Even without her light cone, she deals a lot of damage. And one of the comments that I had in my previous video is, there's a lot of people who are very mixed about Acheron. Some people say, I'm going to get the character. Some people say, I'm not going to get the character. Some people say, it's you. There's a lot of mixed reviews. There's no end all be all specifically towards Acheron and her kit and what people are going to be doing with her. There are changes that are happening. I think if you go on YouTube, you'll just obviously see the changes all around. People are covering the changes every other single day, so I think it's just something that can be done or can be seen somewhere if you just do recent changes or leaks or whatever. But today's video is going to be specifically the difference between JING LIU and what's her name, and Acheron. So one of the first things I actually want to cover from a comment is the fact that someone does say that it's better to save up for JING LIU and get Eidolons for JING LIU rather than get Eidolons for Acheron. And the reason they actually say that is because of something that I actually talked about in my previous video prior, and that's that there is, I feel, a huge difference between JING LIU, or rather the investment of JING LIU and the investment of Acheron. Whereas JING LIU is not... Actually, let me cover the main topic in which this guy was talking about. So topic 1, right? That JING LIU is not centered around... JING LIU is not centered around a specific type of path to give her buffs. JING LIU is her own buffer. I mean, you play 2 skills, you get her like form or stance, in this case, which obviously has her off without the blindfold. And then she obviously has an increase in crit damage generally, and then has an increase in crit rate by 50%. So usually most people will build her with crit damage, and then obviously it's much easier to have that good 70 to about 230, 240 increase in crit damage, right? And that's what's happening. That was his view on it. That the difference between Acheron and JING LIU is that JING LIU does not need another path, specifically like 2 specific paths like Acheron, whose kit is mostly revolved around the fact that for her to deal more damage from her kit, she needs, as a free-to-play, 2 Nihility characters in the team. JING LIU doesn't have that. And that's the main, I think, topic of the discussion as to why most people in the previous video, and there was a lot who were commenting that if you're free to play, you would rather save up your Stellar Jade and do Eidolons for JING LIU than start doing a whole set of roles and stuff for specifically Acheron. And you know what? It does make some sort of sense, because again, in my previous video, it was very restrictive on how I felt. It was very restrictive on how they've structured Acheron to be that she can still deal damage. She's a good character and she can still, hit hard, which is good. But at the same time, the fact that her kit needs an extra 2 Nihility characters in the team to deal more damage didn't make sense for some people. Made sense for some people, didn't make sense for most people. It didn't make sense for me. It's like saying that the only way that Welt can deal damage is by having another 2 Nihility characters. He doesn't. I mean, Welt is a beast in his own, right? And again, with JING LIU, she doesn't need any path or any specific character to deal. Obviously, like we have Sparkle, we have Bronya, right? We have those characters, but realistically, why is it that with Acheron it takes? Why is it that with Acheron it takes 2 Nihility characters to deal damage? Well, I mean, she deals damage, but more damage. So now we go on to the second topic. Someone said, what was the comment? I'm trying to remember the comment. Why not just get her, put her in a team with, say, Runmei, Bronya, or Sparkle, and then see how she, performs? But you see, at the same time, it's like maybe it's just me, but you're subconsciously or knowingly limiting the amount of damage that she can truly output by just getting her, not even her Lightcone, just her, and then putting her with Runmei, or putting her with Bronya, or both, and then a healer, and then you're saying, okay, no problem, she'll deal damage. Now, this is where there's like about 10 comments or 10 replies to that specific comment, and people are saying that's if the person who said that basically either has the money to buy to roll for Acheron and just wastes time, or they just they're clueless on how a character is actually built. So for example, you will not build JING LIU with effect hit rate, would you? Yeah, you wouldn't build Imbibitor Luna with effect hit rate. You wouldn't, right? So in this case, now this is a reference that someone was giving. How would you knowingly put 2 buffers with, or rather 2 harmonies with Acheron, no Lightcone, when her kit specifically says that for her to deal more damage, right, she has to have 2 Nihility characters. So that's another topic that a lot of people were very up and down about. But from what looks like, the people who are very, straight about it, talking about how it doesn't make any sense for some and most. One of them is just the fact that it's the whole aspect of 2 Nihility characters is just something that is really disturbing a lot of people. That's not the second part. Now, the third part is that there's someone who I think mistook the fact of how Acheron actually works. Acheron doesn't need 2 Nihility characters to build up her stacks. That's something that I think also we need to correct. From what we've seen, any character can build up her ultimate stacks, right? Any character. Doesn't have to be specifically Nihility characters. The good thing about Nihility characters, or rather how her kit is being geared, is that the more debuffs that an enemy has, the more crit damage that she deals to that enemy. Make sense? Right. So, very straightforward. Every single character put with Acheron can build up her stacks, not specifically Nihility characters. Her kit is revolved around the fact that if you are able to apply debuffs to the enemy, she deals more damage to that enemy, right? On top of now her own stack talent or whatever it is, right? Let me just set this here. So another thing, right, is the fact that there was... Actually, let me just edit this quickly. Just do that. So we're talking about the stacks. Yes. So some people were talking about the fact that obviously they think that it's only Nihility characters. No, her kit is mostly geared towards the fact that any character can give her skill points, and in turn, what she does, or rather now what people don't like, is the fact that you need 2 Nihility characters to deal now more damage, which again, from a free-to-play perspective, just doesn't make any sense. And then obviously going into the fact that what does Jing Liu exactly need specifically from another set of path of characters to deal more damage? Nothing. I mean, if you put her with Sparkle or Bronya, she's gonna deal a lot of damage, but you don't see Jing Liu's kit saying, for her to deal an X amount of more damage, she needs 2 other destruction characters or 2 other, harmony characters. Doesn't make sense. And that's what they've done with Jing Liu, which again, just it is a really annoying thing that they've done, and it really bogs people like myself down, because it's not something that like I'm really happy about. So now we come to now the final part, which is now Jing Liu versus Acheron. Realistically, I do agree with one of the comments that was made that unless they change her kit, specifically the one that says she needs, actually, he was very specific, unless they at least make her nihility requirement an E1, because obviously there's always that argument when the character actually comes out, that is it better to get an E1 or is it better to get the light cone, right? That's usually an argument that most people have. So one of the arguments that came about is, not arguments, but comments that came about is, you can roll for as a free-to-play, people would recommend to roll for the character, but only if they change that requirement of E2 to E1. Because realistically, think about this. As an E1, as a free-to-play player, you would need close to like 400 stellar passes, or stellar jade, no, that's not stellar jade, special passes, because in the event that you're losing a 50-50 or a pity, like, so now you get the character, right, you lose on the next pity, so that's, you've lost, that's 160, you get on the next one, that's about 240, right, that's an E1, you lose the next 50-50, that's 2, I mean, it's too much. The most you can even do right now is just get the character and at least try and get her light cone. So that's an argument. So one of the major things that came about is the fact that if you are, in terms of damage comparison, I probably think there's no way that one is going to be better than the other, because obviously each of them deal their own amount of set damage, right? But I don't think it's going to be valid to say one is more powerful than the other, because again, factors kind of play into whether one character is going to be, hitting harder than the other. So what I would recommend from a free-to-play perspective is, let's wait for the character to come out. Let's see what she does. Let's see what they've changed for the final product. But what I would suggest is, if it does not look good, if you feel that it's not needed for you, and Jing Liu is a rerun character within 2.1, I think I would suggest summoning 4 Jing Liu Eidolons if you've gotten Jing Liu, because I wouldn't even want to imagine someone who is starting this game in 2.1 and getting Acheron, because you are going to be so limited in terms of, like, probably not, because you would have Sampo. No, Sampo, you don't even get Sampo as a starter unit. No, you don't. Guanifan, you don't. I don't think you. No, you get Yukong and Lynx for free. You don't get Sampo and Guanifan, unless now those are the rerun characters in her banner. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I mean, you guys, listen, this is all just conversation between every single one of us. Your comments are what I'm using to sort of gear my conversation, and it's my what I'm saying is not an end all be all. This is just my comments specifically, but the final product is the fact that one of the people who commented the comments made a lot of sense on the fact that, why is it that someone like Jing Liu, who's really hard hitting, or someone like Dang or Imbibituluna, who's really hard hitting, how comes they don't have such a restriction? I mean, if you look at Imbataluna, his E2 is what gives the 3 extra stacks for you to be able to use those, not use skill points, right? But as a free-to-play player, you know, that doesn't really bother you because his ultimate really gives you like those 2 stacks that allow you not to use skill points, and then you only use 1, right? So, and Jing Liu, again, you know, you use two skills and you're in her form, and you have like 3 or rather 2 turns when you can use her ultimate stance, and then the more ultimate you use, the more stacks she gives to stay in that form. I mean, that is a very free to play. That is a very free to play kit. Like, anyone can get her. She deals damage, and anyone can build her, and she still deals damage. But Acheron, I mean, again, she's still going to be dealing damage. That's fine. But for her to deal way more damage, she needs 2 nihility characters. So there's a very it's just, I think everybody's just, I know it's a topic that everybody's waiting for, rather when the character comes out. We still have 26 days, but it's very, you know, everybody waited for this character, I myself included. One of my accounts is specifically, you know, saved up for her, right? But her kit, you know, the leaks came out, and I'm like, what is this? Like, it's like you're forcing me to roll for her E2, which like makes no sense. Like, I don't want to roll for Eidolons. I don't have the money. I don't have the Stellar Jade. But it's like you're forcing me to roll for her Eidolons, which I don't like. So yeah, that's where we are. I mean, you guys are the ones who have your opinion. What some people are actually writing like full on paragraphs of what they think, and that's what I like, because it's actually giving me that idea of what people's thoughts are. So yeah, let's talk about it a bit more, because this, I think, is something that needs to be talked about in terms of the validity and reliability of Acheron as a character. If you do not have the validity of Acheron as a character, if you do not have a nihility or 2 nihility characters in your account. But even the essence of the need of having 2 nihility characters for her to deal more damage makes no sense to some people. So obviously, thank you again, everybody, for the comments, and thank you again for the amount of support that I'm getting in my videos. I really like the fact that a lot of people are interacting with my comment section and talking to each other, and obviously having a valid argument about whether she's good or not. But with that said, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next one.